All right. We are live. So, welcome back to Miss Kulala's Mystical Musings and That Mystery Show podcast. So, today I have joining me two uh, friends that have actually shared the screen with me a few times. Anna Sarah has been on my Musings, the YouTube channel. And Chris is from the Carla and Chris podcast show that was like separate from YouTube. And he's joining us back today. And we're going to talk about the Book of Enoch. So, hi, Anna Sarah. Hi, Chris.
Hello.
Hello.
How's everybody doing today?
Good.
Good.
Peachy.
Fairly well. Yeah.
All right. So, real quick, I was just going to give a brief overview. We all decided to uh, check out the Book of Enoch. Now, um, I had actually read it about 25 years ago, and because Anna Sarah popped in the messenger group and said, "Ooh, look what I'm reading," I was like, "Ooh!" So I
Uh, as YouTube has all fun different videos, and it just kind of popped up one day, and I heard about it, and I found it more interesting. So I went to different websites and different videos and did a little research. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to order this because this sounds interesting. And uh, Enoch was also mentioned in the Bible, so I wanted to know more about who this person was and like where did he come from and all that stuff. Because there's bits and pieces about him
right,
in the
yep.
in the Bible, and there's other people in the Bible that are mentioned, but you only get to hear bit on Jesus. So that's why I went to grab the book and started reading it.
Chris, what about you?
Well, when we did the Carla and Chris show, I was reading it then.
Oh,
And then when you
yeah.
mentioned that you were going to do this and you wanted me on the show, I decided to read it 2 more times.
You're
So
a go-getter.
yeah, not sometimes, but I did. Then I read the second book and then the third book of Enoch as well.
Yeah, I believe. Yeah, Lady Blind Wolf. Hi, by the way. Thank you very much for being here. I do believe that, yeah, Enoch is definitely talked about in the Torah.
Hmm.
Um, so that does bring me to my next question. Okay, so I'll start with telling people, like my little label. I don't know if you can see it, but it says omnist. Now, I don't know if you guys are aware of what omnism is, but it's the belief that there is truth in all like spiritual beliefs, religious beliefs, but not one is the truth. So I've been drawn to pretty much any type of scripture or book. It doesn't matter if it's something, Buddhist or um Hindu or or anything along those lines. I'm drawn to anything that is spiritual. So I would like to know, do you label yourself with a certain type of spiritual belief or, Christian or whatever? What about you, Anna Sarah?
Well, I consider myself Christian, but I'm I would say more I'm like a truth seeker. So I'm like you.
Okay.
I want to like read all the books. I want to talk about or talk with so many different people and like do your own research because I don't think no one really knows what's the full truth.
Yeah.
Because like the books have been passed down so many times and retold so many times, retranslated. So we don't really know the whole truth. We may know some of it, but I don't think we know all of it.
Yeah, I agree with that. What about you, Chris?
I'm 100% Christian. I'm believe in the faith in the Heavenly Father. I do have. I'm also a truth seeker.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the some of the other texts and beliefs, spiritual beliefs, make accounts of the Great Flood.
Yep.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
so I one main religion, some of them have been branched off from biblical beliefs. I think some of them have been misskewed to mislead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
So, honestly, like, I do not call myself Christian anymore, only because I don't believe like Jesus considered himself Christian. You know what I mean? I don't think the term even existed. And so I do consider myself spiritual, but I chose, like, if any label, omnis, because it does cover pretty much everything that yeah, yeah, absolutely. Lady Blindwolf says there's also mention of the flood in both the Greek pantheon as well as the Norse pantheon. It's like in every pantheon there's a flood story.
Yep.
So I mean, knowing that you guys are looking at it from a Christian point of view, I'm excited because mine. I used to be, and I still believe in Jesus. I just my issues with the Bible is because, like you guys know, and you're pretty much very aware, is that the Bible is very incomplete, and it was manipulated, and it's
Yep.
been obviously misconstrued. Um, Lady Blind Wolf says if Jesus came back today, they would call him a liberal and then want his immigration papers and try to have him deported.
Uh,
I can't argue with that because I feel like, you know, um, that's, we're
Yeah, it's
not going
kind
to
of.
really go ahead, Chris.
It was interesting. Like, it was kind of, I don't know, maybe supposed to be, because like we were going over um the books of David and the prophecies of David leading
Mm-hmm.
up to the coming of Jesus Christ and Babylon, um and Enoch and stuff in church and in our Bible study group when you asked me if I want to do the podcast on Enoch.
Oh, wow. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
So when I was reading the book of Enoch, it was during the time of the eclipse. So, I mean, I was also doing some extra, um, like outside of Enoch. I was looking at, obviously you guys have heard me talk about real sky astrology. So I was following something called the fixed cross, and I was following, like, what was truly in the sky at that time was what people would consider the crucifixion. You know what I mean? Astronomically, that's what was in the sky. And before that, my daughters had said, "Mom, well, isn't it interesting that Easter is long before the Passover?" And I thought, well, yeah, because actually the Passover, um, if it was recognized by the Western calendar, or should I say, recognized by the Western calendar, it puts us in the Passover period between April 22nd and like to now.
Hmm.
And but yet in the sky, if it was recognized astronomically, it would have been at the time that I was reading the Book of Enoch, which would have been right before the eclipse, because the sun actually is like, the ancients said that it died, and it would like die for 3 days because that's, um I forget what it's called, but I think it's called the fixed cross. I could be wrong, but it is recognized by the old calendar, and now we have the new calendar. which is not really new, but we've been going by the Babylonian calendar for a long time. But in the book of Enoch, it specifically talks about, the timeline and measuring time. And Enoch tells you how to do it by the 13 moon cycles, or the 13 months. But
Yeah,
yet here, we're following the Gregorian calendar, which is not even close to being correct. And it goes along with the whole, when you really look up in the sky, even the zodiac is a tool to measure time. And everywhere in the book of Enoch, in the Bible, it says to look at the stars. you know
Yep.
yep.
Yeah.
so my I guess that would lead me to the next question is, why is it so, I mean, you guys are Christian, and the whole um idea in the and correct me if I'm wrong, is that um you cannot add or take away from the Bible, right?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, so where does that put the book of Enoch for you? Chris, why don't you take that one first?
Uh, why was it left out?
In your
Is
opinion,
there?
it does it make it valid because it was left out? What does it mean to you?
Well, in my opinion, I don't think that any of the books should have been left out. There, when the King James Bible was put together, because we have a historian, which is cool in our Bible study. So, like when they did that, they read over the books of the Bible, and ones that were repetitive that they thought had no value,
Hmm.
they decided that they should not be included in the canon of the Bible, which I disagree with Enoch being taken out for the reason of him explaining um, after he was taken before God
Right.
on on um, the rising and setting of the sun and the rising and setting of the moon, and it specifically states in there that the new year was when the cold when it gets cold, everything seems to die in nature. Trees, leaves fall off of trees, plants die, grass dies, all that stuff.
Uh-huh.
And he explains in there that when the new year comes is when the fruits bud on the tree. So when they first start to bud, it's described as that being a new year because it's bringing new life.
Right.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
and I think they took that out of there. That way they could try to, I don't know, miscue people into when the New Year is, because we celebrate New Year's now on December 30th at midnight when January 1st comes, which according to the book of Enoch and what was explained to him by God was that the New Year was at that time when the trees and the grass and everything first started to come back to life and
Yeah.
bud.
So hold
So,
on to that thought, Chris, because that's like, holy crap, it's a very important fact, because after I asked Anna Sarah her opinion about Enoch being left out, I definitely want to go back to that, because that has everything to do with everything, in my opinion, and the big why, and you know why I don't follow Christianity, and we'll get back to that. Anna Sarah, what's your opinion?
Um,
What is Enoch to you?
mm, I think uh, the Vatican has taken a lot of books out, not just the Book of Enoch, but quite a lot. And my personal belief is, I think they want to control the people what they think we should know. So
Yeah, yeah,
basically, just
yeah.
Jesus and some of his teachings, the beginning of creation and the revelations. Like, that's
uh-huh,
it.
yeah,
Nothing before that, which I disagree, because I think it's important to know all the history, because there's lots of learning and history in it. So I have no idea why they would want to do that in the first place. because like I've only read the first book, but there's other books out there that tell more fascinating things about angels, about what they do, what um the history of them, because I think that's also important. It's not just to know about God and Jesus. It's about everything, and it's
Yeah.
about love and so on and
Mhm.
so on.
Absolutely.
So that's yeah, that's my take on it.
So, real quick, Lady Blind Wolf is definitely putting a lot in here that is a lot to consider. Um, Real quick, she mentioned the prophecy of the seven fires in the native tradition about the rainbow people. Now, I've talked about this before. Um, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with it. I think you probably have because I know I've probably there. It said that in the end days they are expecting they're going to see what they call the rainbow people, but they're people coming from like different colors, different races. I guess maybe hippie like whatever, they're going to grow their hair long and they're going to bring people together. They're going to help people to set aside their differences and bring people together in love to bring in the new age. I'm probably butchering the whole story, but that's the basis of it. And a lot of people believe that these people are here now.
Hmm.
Um, so what I wanted to um, talk about then is both of you remember reading about the calendar. So if if say you were alive in um specifically let's 200 BC, what year would that be? If you did not know about this particular calendar, what year would it be? Do you know? Does
No.
anyone know?
Ugh.
I can't claim that I would know what year or time.
So
I,
do you think
they messed up all the timelines
mhm
in different books that
mhm
I've seen. Timelines are slightly different, but they don't really tell you exactly because I don't know if they even know.
Right. Okay. So what
But
I found truly interesting, and I mentioned this in our little podcast chat, is that AD means after death,
after
right?
after
After
after the
death of,
death of Christ,
yeah,
yeah. Okay. So what does BC mean?
before
before the
Christ.
death of Christ.
Uh-huh. Now there is a little bit of like people will say, well, yeah, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. It does mean
Hmm.
that, and that's exactly what it was put into place for. But it's so after the death of Christ would have been when?
Uh,
They're I'm not sure because like some people say that he was 23, or some people say that he was 32, and some people say that he was 33. But when Christ
Hmm.
died, then they were already saying that it was 33 AD or
Right.
AC.
There's no definitive proof of when he died, correct?
not specifics.
Right. Okay, so my question is then what does that say about time?
Well, it depends. Like, were they counting it according to the Book of Enoch? So if they were counting it day by day according to the Book of Enoch, from
Hmm.
one new year from when the fruits of the trees budded to the next year of
Uh-huh.
the trees that when they budded, then I would say they did know.
April, it was the beginning of the new year. And in fact,
Right.
April Fool's Day was just something that was created to make fun of pagans or people that believed pagan like that they believed that was the beginning of the year. And throughout the book of Enoch, the one thing that stuck with me is that if you follow the Enochian timeline, you lose one day a year. And if you add
Mhm.
that up, how many days have we lost
Oh, I
since?
had I have that all added up in a mathematical formula for that somewhere.
we've lost at least 7 years. So now Ethiopia, or the Ethiopian Bible, which has all of these books in it, Ethiopia just so happens to be living in the Enochian year, the correct year of the Lord, according to the the book of Enoch. So, and I think it's like what, 2016, 2017, something like that. Yeah, and I find that extremely interesting that, even people that do not believe in Jesus Christ are still following the Gregorian calendar, and it's all
Yeah.
based upon the Messiah. And when I looked it up to find out why, it's because it works. It's convenient.
Hmm.
I am
Yeah.
probably, just taking words and probably construing them to the simplest terms of things that I read, if you know what I'm saying. But that was the pretty much the consensus. Even, the Jews who only believed that Jesus was a prophet and that he was not the Messiah still follow the Gregorian calendar. Am I right?
Yep.
So, yeah, I'm missing a lot of what Lady Blindwolf has said here, so I'm going to put it up here so you guys can read it. So actually, Easter was something that Christians stole because they would use pagan holidays. So Christians took them in order to convert people to Christianity. It's actually Easter is what they took. So a little bit on that, I've done a little bit of research. So back when, like I said, there was no Christianity and pagans were druids. I mean, they were magicians. Everyone was a magician, but we all had spiritual beliefs, right? So whoever was in control was the one that was creating the narrative or the agenda. And so if it was more people that were following the biblical God that we know of, then they would have to get anyone that went, because paganism was anything other than Christian, okay, at that time. And that's kind of what paganism is today. It's anything other than. So, if you didn't fall in line, well, then they would find ways to bring Christianity and paganism together. And so that was how they did it. They would observe certain holidays together and then call it something else. You know what I mean? And that was a way to appease. So, and then, so at one time it was, say, they didn't call themselves Christians. Maybe they did, but they were in control. So they controlled the pagans. Then at one time it was the pagans that were in control. So, as time went on, we had a blending of these holidays. Easter is like not really. I think it should have been more about the Passover, and this is just my opinion. All of these are just my opinions when I speak. I'm not, I've done my own research, but everything is that I research is still my perception of it. You know what I mean? So in a podcast, it's the same for you guys. It's just, you read the book, you've done studies, it's still your perception of what you've looked at. So if the beginning of the year is April and, Enochian timeline is on 13-month calendar and it puts time way off, I feel like it's all about control,
Yeah.
and that's, what do you agree? You think that it's about control?
I think
I,
that's all it is.
I think it wasn't intended to be,
You don't
but
think it was? Okay.
I think now once after a certain period, I think that they started to use it as a way of control. So if you could,
Yes.
they started with, like, it wasn't intended to be. It was intended for knowledge that that was passed on, um, from the Heavenly Father and the messenger angels, um, to put us in the best direction of life. And I think that, um, others had used that as a way to manipulate us in our beliefs, so that if we believe a specific way, then they can wean us to believe whatever they wanted us to believe.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree with that. It was almost like even before the version of 1611, it was like only certain people could get their hands on any type of biblical scripture, correct? So then they came up with this, this version that was allowed to be given to the public, but yet, like you had said earlier, Chris, it was like they sat around and decided what was going to be and what wasn't. And when you look up the book of Enoch in the Wikipedia, which everybody knows, this is just Wikipedia is something that anyone can get on and add stuff to, but they have to put their, references, and then it's checked over. It's not like it's not a good reference point, but it says it's an apocalyptic religious text that was ascribed by tradition. So it's not, there's still no absolute proof of who wrote it, but it is ascribed by tradition to the patriarch Enoch, who was the father of Methuselah and the great grandfather of Noah. And in this book, he talks about demons, he talks about Nephilim, he talks about angels, and he gets very, very specific. Um, and I know that uh, Anna Sarah, you haven't read book 2 and book 3, but Chris and I did. We're not really going to get into that because it kind of gets into like those we know weren't written by Enoch, but yet it's still written from his perspective, say, you know what I mean? So
Mhm.
how in your opinion, how do they get this information to be able to write something down that is going to last like it has, like Lady Blind Wolf here says, yeah, they took out the Dead Sea Scrolls also. Well, yes, all of those can be found in the Ethiopian text, which is, has 84 books in it, and the Dead Sea Scrolls included. It's the Apocrypha. So, how is it that someone can write something like that and we don't know if it's them or not, but yet it stands the test of time? Um, for us to like find it, I feel like, like again, this is just my opinion. It's on purpose because it is to be able to use to either sway one way or another.
Right. Well, I think
Do you,
the first book, I believe, was written by Enoch. I
that's
believe
what I
Okay.
was going to say. Yeah.
the
Okay.
second book was partly written by Enoch and then finished by Methuselah. And then the third book was written by Methuselah, his son.
Oh wow. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I was going to say, I believe that Enoch wrote the first one because it's so detailed
Mm-hmm.
that it would be hard for someone to make this stuff up. Like you had to like see this to write it down. Like I know people can have great imagination, but the things that were said was like pretty crazy, pretty detailed, and
Yeah.
some parts of it were very complex. So for having to have someone just create out of their head and just write it down wouldn't make sense.
Right. Right. Um, that's what you had mentioned it before, talking about like the game of telephone.
Hmm.
you
Right.
know. So I
Yeah.
mean, if we can't necessarily prove who the author is, and again, let me please, um, you know, stress this disclaimer that these are just our opinions. You know what I mean? They're not uneducated opinions. They're just opinions. You know what I mean? We all three of us have read the Book of Enoch. We all perceived it differently. I'm assuming you guys have definitely read the Bible.
Yep.
And if you've read the Bible, then you know that Enoch fills in holes, you know.
Yeah.
Um, And I think it's important to, this is just, again, I keep saying it, but I think it's important to say, it's just my opinion, it's my opinion that it's important to note that the book of Enoch is very specific about the calendar that we no longer follow. And
Yeah.
so I feel like that's, like Chris said, specifically the reason that they kept certain things out of the Bible, because it kind of reiterates that we are following a false timeline that was that whatever they want to call it, not timeline, a calendar, even Western astrology. I'll get it. I'm even going to get into it. I feel like,
Well, I'm gonna put something in here. You know how, like in astrology, you have your sun sign and your moon sign.
yeah,
If you go out before dawn and look at the stars in the sky, whatever whatever zodiac sign you are,
uh-huh,
when that sun rises into that zodiac sign, that's what month it is. That's what sign it is.
yes, absolutely,
And it's the
Abs-
same when the moon
absolutely,
rises. When the moon rises, right before it rises, whatever sign is in the sky, wherever the moon rises, is whatever sign you are.
absolutely, absolutely. So
And
if
that's
you,
and that and that's what he's referring to in the second book when he's
mhm,
referring to the sun and the moon rising and setting and portals. The portals are the zodiac signs,
yeah,
representing like your true nature, your being,
mhm.
the way that the Heavenly Father created you.
So what would be the reason then to screw it all up and make it different?
To hide the second coming of Jesus Christ.
Agreed.
Because it's a measurement of,
It's a measurement of the time of God.
it's a measurement of, yeah, it's a measurement. So if you're off on something, it's not going to go together right. You will find cracks in the matrix. So as a truth seeker, you want to know the truth, correct? So is Christianity giving you the truth?
Parts of
I
it.
I believe a lot of it. A lot of it. And when you ask about the author and not really know who the author is the Heavenly Father. He's using these people as disciples and to get his message to all of those on earth so everybody can know. You just have to be willing to look and know it's the truth.
Yeah, because I mean, like, if you look up at the sky right now, um, what is it? Today is April 28th. I think we are in Aries, right? Aren't we in Aries?
We are in Aries. My son's in Aries.
So, but if you look in Western, it's Taurus. Western astrology tells you it's Taurus right now.
Correct.
So, I mean,
And one of my sons is also a Taurus, according to, yeah.
so I mean, that alone it's a big one, I think. So why would they want you to think you're Aries if you're Taurus? Or I mean, why would they want you to think you're Taurus if you're actually Aries? Or why would they want you to think that the beginning of the year is January 1st and not April 1st? That's the big question. And if you go to Christianity, this is
So
just my
you don't
personal
know who
belief.
you
I don't
really
think
are.
you're gonna find that out. I think you're a truth seeker without Christianity. That's just my opinion. I think Christianity is why we are misguided. I think that was, I mean, if I go to church without knowing what I know right now, would I find where I am right now with Christianity, or would I find it by being a truth seeker? Because you can be a truth seeker without being Christian. I
Right.
just like, I am convinced that, like in Deuteronomy, when God tells the his people that it's okay to kill the Canaanites, including children, and rape the women, because they are also Canaanites. Because they're Canaanites, they're evil. I do not believe that that is the same Father that Jesus talks about. I believe that those words are also muddled. So it's like, and I believe that Enoch is still worshiping that same Father that is telling these people in the Old Testament that it's okay to go do these things. I feel like it's the same guy. And if you look up El Shaddai, which is in the book of Job, El Shaddai is not the Alpha and the Omega. But the only way to know these things, honestly, is to really, like, we would have to know how to translate those languages. You know what I mean? I don't specifically know how to translate those languages, but unless we go out of our way to truth seek and find what was really said, we're not going to know who that is. I just don't believe that Jesus's father thought it was okay to kill because they were associated with, the Canaanites, the line of Cain, or whatever, the at the time when all the bad stuff was going on, and they went in and they said, well, I'm giving
That's
you
why I
that
think
land.
that's why I think the Sermon on the Mount is so important.
Absolutely. That one is. I follow, Jesus Christ, but I don't believe that Jesus Christ was referring to the Old Testament Father as the Father. I do believe that there's a lot of stuff that's left out. And there's another, did Jesus Christ actually die, or did he become a light body? Because if the Essenes are given any credit, that was their whole purpose, was to become angel-like. And we know that Jesus studied with them, right?
Yeah.
He was in
Yep.
the secret mystery schools for years. So
Yeah, I think the crucifixion of Jesus Christ actually did happen.
yeah.
Because we're studying that, and we just finished that last weekend, and it was described in detail to the day when Jesus Christ would ride into Jerusalem on a bull, and that bull being a male donkey. And when he did, on that exact day, they rejected him. And then 4 days later, he was crucified because
Yeah.
they called him a liar.
Right.
Huh. I remember reading in the book that we just read, Anna Sarah, that where the author kind of explains in between the lines, like, about what we're reading, and he will reference, he references stuff from the New Testament, and he talks about Jesus. You know what I'm talking about, right? Like in the footnotes and stuff.
Right.
So when I
Okay.
was reading the book of Enoch, he referred to the Passover, and before Jesus's death. And at the time, the apostles asked Jesus, well, how long are you going to be here? And he said, I will be here till the end of an age. And they said, well, how will we know, at the end of this age? He said, like, who are we going? The apostles asked, who will we follow then? And he said, well, you will follow the man with the bucket into his house. And I know I'm butchering that, but are you too familiar with that? Are you familiar with what he's talking about?
No.
It's
I
in the Gospels, in the New Testament. So I believe Matthew. I can't give you specifics right now without looking it up. I'm sorry, but the apostles ask him, they're like, who are we going to follow when you're gone? And he says, you're going to follow the man with the bucket into his house. Now, if you look at what age represents Jesus, that's Pisces. And if you look at how we measure ages according to the zodiac, it goes backwards, and before Pisces is Aquarius. So like we're going from Pisces, the next age we will go into will be Aquarius, because it's like the zodiac wheel goes backwards. You know what I mean? It doesn't go forward like we do, like the sun, it goes backwards. So if we're leaving the age of Pisces and going into Aquarius, guess what is symbolized by Aquarius? He's the water bearer. He's the man with the bucket. And the zodiac has houses in it. It has 12 houses in it.
Right.
Actually 13.
13.
Yes.
Right.
So, okay. So now think about that. If he's still, it's another reference. It's astronomical. So if we're following a system that does not correctly measure what's truly in the sky, then I mean, I'm not going to say I don't agree with the second coming of Christ. It's just what I believe the second coming of Christ is consciousness. I believe that that's us, and we are all one. And, you know, the upgrade in consciousness is going to be the second coming of Christ. But I believe that that's going to be, you know, we're all going to have to be on the same page for that. And that doesn't mean, in order, like, in my opinion, in order for us all to be on the same page, then we have to be on the same page of unconditional love. And unconditional love is not love of the flesh, it's love of the spirit. I mean, do you agree with that?
Yes.
I mean, you don't have to.
No, I know. I do agree, but I also think Jesus Christ will come down on earth. So
Whoa.
I agree with you, and I also think it's a part of him coming down.
Wow.
But
okay.
I think it's
doing
Okay.
the same thing, like you said, it's all about love. He's gonna like reteach what we should be doing already, which most of us aren't.
well, but you could think of it this way. Well, Jesus, he had said he was God manifested into the flesh, the Spirit of God
Mm-hmm.
manifested in the flesh. Your spirit, who you are manifested into flesh.
Mm-hmm.
Your spirit has manifested into what you look like right now today.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing. And
So
like realizing that helps you become one with the spirit and the spirit of God and consciousness.
right. I'm not saying that I don't agree with that. I'm saying that unconditional love recognizes the spirit in each of us.
Right. Yes, and also in the fact of like the Heavenly Father loves us like His children, unconditional love. And we have to realize that we're all brothers and sisters in the Heavenly Father and the Spirit. And once we realize that, and we start showing each other unconditional love, like you should love the same kind of love that you give your children.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I got a question. The 13 zodiacs. What is the 13th zodiac sign?
Well, it is said that it's Ophiuchus, but I don't believe. If you look on the wheel, the 13th zodiac sign would be Pisces. You understand? So, I mean, I have my own opinion on that. But if you ask a true siderealist, they will tell you that it's Ophiuchus. And Ophiuchus shares a house with Scorpio. I just believe that it's important to recognize Ophiuchus because we are every single part of that. You know what I mean? So I feel like a birth chart is just shows you where areas you might have to work on. So whatever placements you might have in your birth chart shows you what areas you might need to focus on to level up, level up your consciousness,
Mhm.
say, so you don't have to incarnate again. See, and like um I recognize Christianity, and there's parts of it that I agree with, but Christianity does not recognize that, like, I'm a tarot reader, I'm a palmist, I believe in divination. And in the book of Enoch, Enoch says, that these fallen angels are, responsible for teaching human women these things. So, sorcery and all that. See, I believe in all that. And I do not believe that it wasn't meant for us. I believe that it was meant for our spirit. And I believe it was meant to be because our spirit, I believe, is divine. I could get really deep and tell you that the 144,000 are 144,000 oversouls. And we came to Earth, and then we started, like a cell will split apart. We started experiencing different timelines all at the same time because time is irrelevant.
Hmm.
It's experiencing in the flesh to gather these lessons, these life lessons that we learn, and we that's how we level up. That's how, like when you learn something from something that was painful or um changed you in some way, that's the type of lesson we don't forget. And it either makes us a better person or it makes us worse for the wear, if you know what I'm saying. So the more that we, say if we have all these feelers out, just one person, like to get even more specific, like myself, like I could have 13 incarnations right now on this earth or on different earths or different timelines. And when one dies, my consciousness might wake up in another, even though that consciousness has been here from the beginning of its birth. So as I do that, as I learn my lessons in each lifetime, and I say 13 specifically because I feel like there's 13 constellations that could go through my life, my lifetime. So if I'm in, every possible consciousness would have a print, a specific blueprint. And I feel like that's the birth chart. So, if I do what I planned for myself, if I follow it and I do these upgrades and I learn, then maybe this might be the one that I actually become a light body in. But one of them, I'm going to become a light body in. So, that's just a running theory that I have right now. It makes me feel like whether reincarnation is real or not, having many incarnations is definitely real. It's like we know that uh John the Baptist was Elias or Elijah, right? I mean, he was different. I mean, we talked about this before, Chris. Enoch
Right.
is also,
Right.
he's been incarnated. We know this, right? More than once.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I think that it's important to know what we
Yeah, because
truly. Go ahead.
that that's what, because Elijah was taken before God, or to God before death, the same as Enoch. And when John the Baptist was to baptize Jesus Christ, that's why the baptismal of Jesus Christ is so important, because when he saw Jesus for the first time, John the Baptist had already known who he was. He knew who he was because he is Elijah. That's why he had to have God baptize him first before he could baptize Jesus Christ.
So, what does that say? Was how old would that have made John the Baptist?
Oh, geez, old.
Couple hundred.
Yeah,
But do
yeah.
you really believe that his flesh was that old?
Yeah, because back then people lived way much longer.
Not in that time.
No, they weren't. They weren't living 900 years, 800
No,
years then.
no, Elijah maybe, but not John the Baptist.
At
No.
what age did he die? Do you know?
Who?
Um,
Which one?
John the Baptist.
I'm gonna assume in his 40s because he was beheaded, and it was after Jesus Christ, so it was old.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, what I'm saying is his oversoul could have been that old. Hey, we got some more people on here. Thank you so much for joining us. We're having a very controversial conversation about Enoch, and I mean, we're just throwing out ideas, and we're not, definitely not trying to force anything on anyone. We're just having a Sunday conversation about, ideas, and pretty much just, getting our real take on it, I think, opening our minds to what each other believes, and just not judging each other for our differences. Don't you guys agree?
Yep.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's probably outrageous. But I think
what makes it so interesting.
Yeah, I feel like that is that's the part that, I mean, we can expand, and if there's no growth in just having your opinions and not listening to other people's opinions, I don't think there's any growth in that. I think that is, if we can listen to someone else's ideas, and then we can actually think about what they're saying, we can either think to ourselves, yeah, I've visited that already, and I have my opinions on that, or, oh, I never thought about that before. But either way, it's still a way to expand and broaden our, so to speak, horizons, because I can guarantee that, I'm not going to be the same person that I was yesterday, as long as I keep an open mind and I am taking in all sorts of different ideas.
Actually, I don't know if you guys know about... Oh, am I echoing?
Yeah, you got a little bit of an echo going on there.
Bit.
Weird. Where did that come from? The show called The Chosen. Have you guys heard of it?
I watched that.
I have.
Yes.
I've watched it.
Okay, so there was a part where Jesus said that John the Baptist is the same age as Jesus.
Sorry. That he was what? Say that again.
The same age as Jesus.
Oh, I think I might have read that too. That makes, yeah.
Yeah. So both 33. The flesh is 33 years old. I don't know about the soul.
Isn't that interesting that, Masons go up to quote unquote 33,
I believe there's the correlation and reason why that it's the 33.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I hope I said hi to everybody. I think I did. Thank you so much for being here. Lady Blind Wolf brings up a really good point too. 13. If we look, like we were talking about Ophiuchus, and True Siderealist recognize that as the 13th zodiac sign. I think it's Pisces, because if you add Ophiuchus in there, that makes Pisces the 13th. Jesus was the 13th apostle, or, he makes 13, right?
Yeah.
But yet here we've got, people associate 13 to witchcraft and bad luck. And I'm going to say, I think that's horseshit, because she's right. You never have 13 steps. Hotels never, or high-rise buildings never have a 13th floor. But then you look at the Winchester House. Yeah. I mean, 13 is, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
The Chosen still has dramatic content. Watch it for entertainment. Yeah. I liked it. And I think, I believe that anything is possible, even like you, Anna Sarah. I'm not saying that there couldn't be a physical second coming of Jesus Christ. But I
Mhm.
know in the Bible, it definitely says that if they say, "Look for me here," don't. It's not me.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I feel like the second coming of Christ and everything in the New Testament specifically tells me it is our consciousness. When he says the only way to, find him is through my Father and through me to my Father, I'm pretty sure he's talking about the consciousness, especially when, people are trying to worship him and he says, "No, no, 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 don't worship me. I'm just like you."
Hmm.
So, I mean, it's just my opinion, but I think that Jesus was became an ascended master. I think he went to the secret mystery schools for a reason, to learn all about magic. And magic is to be wielded with unconditional love. It's what makes it magic.
Hmm.
Not saying that it can't be wielded with dark intentions, but there's a law, a universal law that says that, what you put out into the universe is going to come back to you.
Right.
You know, Ooh, I like this. In numerology, 13 equals 4. 4 has a lot of great stuff surrounding it once you leave the concept of the Catholic Church. Yeah, it's all about its
Mhm.
structure. It's the base of everything. Absolutely. And then 5 would make that spirit.
Hmm.
Yeah. 4
Um.
elements.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm listening to you now.
Um. Uh. What are your thoughts on when the fallen angels, after everything that they'd done, they knew God was going to be, obviously really pissed off.
Uh-huh.
Um. But the head fallen angel, I forget his name. What was it?
Azazel.
Thank you. Yeah. Uh. He spoke with Enoch and said, "Can you please tell God we're sorry?" Because they know they wouldn't go talk to God. They told Enoch and tell God they're sorry for this and this is what they're telling me. Like, I find that really, I don't know. I don't know. I find that really strange. Why would they even bother saying sorry? Because they know they're like, I don't know.
Well, I think that I mean, just my opinion is that the God that Enoch is worshiping, hi Sonia, um I feel like he is a lesser God, and I do believe honestly that maybe even, you know maybe it's Metatron, because I feel like, this is a lesser being. There, in the second or the third book, you'll have to refresh my memory, Chris. I think it was in the third book where they're praying, like there's 7 levels of heaven, and
Yep.
then the one, the first, the god of one heaven is like bowing to the next god, and they keep going up in levels. But yet it's all, these are the rulers of these, their dimensions, maybe 7 levels of heaven. You know what I'm talking about, Chris?
Right, where the realms.
Yes, yes. So, I mean, I feel like the God of the Old Testament and who Enoch is worshiping is one of those gods. I don't believe that it is the King of Kings, unless it is the King of Kings that is the God of the flesh. The God of the flesh is Satan, or yeah, because Lucifer is not Satan. But anyway, that's a whole other. It is the God of the flesh. Yes, absolutely. Yes, 7 levels of heaven, like 7 levels of the astral realm. Yeah, I think so.
What are your thoughts, Chris?
On
On like,
what the angels asked Enoch to go to God and ask him for forgiveness.
yeah, yeah.
I think a lot of it has to do with, and it kind of explains in a kind of a complicated way on on why they rebelled. Um,
Mhm.
and what I think is that they were upset that God had made Adam ruler and king of all earth,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
and and the devil Satan wanted it for himself to be
Mhm.
ruler, and they didn't realize that we had to work for what they already had. And when they rebelled and they were cast down, then at that moment they realized, because God had explained to Enoch that Adam and his descendants were to be ruler over everything on earth, living or anything that was to be placed on earth or to go to earth. So when they were cast down, that left us, the descendants of Adam, as rulers over them.
Mhm.
And once they realized that we had to work for eternal life and for our connection with the Holy Heavenly Father. They had seen what they had done, and at that moment they had asked Enoch to go before God and ask for forgiveness.
Hmm.
I think that it's all about free will because, um, free will is what every being has, period. So if they had free will and this powerful, I'm not going to say that the God of the Old Testament isn't powerful. Obviously, everyone was afraid of him. You know, he ruled with fear. So, I think that they might have realized what he could do, you know, and they were so attached to the flesh that if there's a chance that they're not going to be able to have a flesh body anymore, I feel like they're going to do everything in their power to get back to that flesh. But just like you said, Chris, they didn't realize that they had what we have already, and that is what makes us special, in my opinion, is our spirit. It is the part of us that is immortal. And then we were like a hybrid,
Hmm.
you know whereas angels are teaching us and procreating with us. We were something way different, and I feel like that's probably why certain aliens are extremely interested in us now, still trying to make that freaking hybrid.
Mhm. Yeah.
But King Solomon, I mean, if we go and we look at King Solomon, who was able to use these same angels for his benefit, um, you know, they had free will to even say, when he said, "Give me your name," they could also refuse to give him their name,
Mhm.
because the power, once they gave him his name, then he had power over them. You know what I mean? Then he was able to tell them, well, okay, I need you to do this to help me build my temple. But the point is like, without, they had the option to give them his name. So they either did or they didn't. So they still had free will, is kind of what I'm getting at. So I think that they were in fear of losing something, but what that something is probably up for debate.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I was thinking about free will the other day when I was doing some research and reading and stuff, and like everything of the Heavenly Father is good. Everything, all the gifts that He gives you, it's
Mhm.
your free will that you have on whether you use His gifts for good or you use His gifts for bad.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, that's kind of, the angels have a light and dark side. We have a light and dark side, you know. The beast, if you in my opinion, is humans. It's, you know, um we are the ones that are in this 3D realm, and angels have to, I mean, I don't, if I believe in possession, and possession would be somebody that is fighting to get back into the 3D flesh for some reason. You know what I mean? Um,
Mm.
because they are addicted to this earthly presence. And like in my personal belief, because I told you I'm omnis, I believe in a lot of different things, but one of the things that I believe in is, I'm greater than my flesh. So it's like here you might have a dimensional, an interdimensional being that wants to possess the flesh because they still want to be able to experience 3D, whereas I want to go beyond 4D and 5D and experience these other realms, and I feel trapped in the flesh.
Mm.
you know
Mhm.
You say that, you remember that the live song Lightning Crashes,
yes,
when it talks about the baby down the hall and an old mother dies.
yes,
Yeah, they say every second a baby's born and every second someone dies.
Yep.
So at the moment that that person dies, their soul can then be carried on to that newborn life.
Mhm.
That's kind of what the song. That's kind of what the song is about. Like,
yes,
Mm.
yes. I yeah. Um, I could expand upon that, but I believe in reincarnation, or we're just living multi lives at the same time. But um, yes, read this comment. If you look to the Gnostics, they believe the Old Testament God is a lesser God and a different from the New Testament. I've worked with Metatron, and in my own personal gnosis, Enoch is Metatron, and you are not alone. That is that's like um I believe a Jewish belief also. I've read this and I feel this. Absolutely. Even like, if you get into the Golden Dawn and the or the Tree of Life, Enoch is Metatron. So knowing that if Enoch is Metatron, and this is coming, then who is, if Enoch is talking to the lesser God, then actually Gnostics believe that that is the demiurge. So, and they believe that Sophia is responsible for the demiurge because she births the demiurge by herself without her counterpart, her male counterpart. And so he was an imperfect God or an imperfect being that believed himself to be God. So along with that, he was kind of like the biggest narcissist that could be. You know what I mean? He ruled from his ego and jealousy, and I can see that in the Old Testament. What do you think about that? Because Gnostics still claim to be Christian.
Hmm. Hmm. I don't know about that one. Huh.
yeah,
It's interesting.
I'm not sure about that one either.
Hmm.
Well, a lot of like they would have been in the time that say this first came out, they would have been considered heretics because this went against what the church was trying to teach. And again, if you believe that this is the demiurge talking, then that kind of takes, you understand that the things that he's telling his people to do are coming from ego. It's coming from uh jealousy. I mean, why would you say it's okay to rape children and or rape women and kill children because they're Canaanites? What kind of God would do that?
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, that one I'm not too sure about that one, because I just think that that's all sick, unless it was had something to do with an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Now, if the Canaanites had done that to them, then I would think that God would at that time period would be like, okay, do unto others as you'd want others to do unto you.
Well, here's another, like I heard this and I thought it kind of makes sense. Somebody had mentioned it, that so if God is this great consciousness, which I believe he is, I believe that if you add everybody's consciousness together, like it's this consciousness that keeps upgrading because every time we inhabit a 3D body, we learn these earthly lessons. It's like, you know, the 144,000 oversouls that first decided to incarnate, they were like, okay, we're going to do this to upgrade Earth so that Earth can ascend, so that Earth can become a, you know, part of the galactic, whatever they call that. I'm not even gonna. It's a theory. So if God is this consciousness, well then as we upgrade the consciousness, well then God is upgrading also. So maybe back then he was uh this entity that just didn't know everything that needed to be experienced yet. You know, so the 3D form, the flesh was indispensable. The flesh was um you know, and now we see how precious life is. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know so much if I believe that, but it kind of makes sense if you wanted to look at God as this, you know, unnamed thing, this powerful thing. Well, then obviously it's not going to be in a body, you know, because
Yeah.
it's just not going to be a body. Um,
Right.
and
Mhm.
this conscious, this
The invisible.
yeah, and the unnamed, it's you can't even fathom what it is, right?
Mhm.
So, but maybe, you know, so here it is, you know, talking to Moses from a bush or whatever. It's, you know, or talking to Enoch. It's kind of like maybe it's upgraded now, so it's not, it's a little bit more forgiving, more, you know, it's just an idea, and I could see it, but I still kind of am leaning towards the Gnostic um idea that it's a demiurge, that it's an imperfect being believing he's God, which doesn't make him not powerful. Obviously, he was powerful and he knew the capabilities of God. But, you know,
Mm.
if either of you are familiar with the Enuma Elish, then you know that even Enki uh gave credit to the God, you know, the creator of all. And it's not, you know, but yet Enki and his brother are the ones that, you know, had their hand in creating us. So, and then if you look at the Bible, which is pretty much a parallel version of the Enuma Elish with maybe some different names, but it's got the whole story there, just, you know, and so what I'm trying to say is you got these two stories that are very, very similar, but the Bible gives credit to God for creating us, whereas the Enuma Elish gives credit to, you know, these Anunnaki brothers, but yet the Anunnaki brothers still give credit to an all-encompassing father of all.
Hmm.
So, I mean, it just, and you know, the Sumerian tablets are way older than any biblical scripture we have.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is definitely all up for interpretation. I mean, there's no proof of, you know, of what actually is or was, or I mean, this is all just speculation. But
Mhm.
um I think we're kind of off the topic of the Book of Enoch, but I
Well, we
don't know.
touched on quite a few things that are in the books of Enoch.
Yeah. Do you
Quite a
have
few.
anything you want to add? Like,
Uh,
so in the comments where, you know, they've been talking about oh wow, you're Mormon, so you believe in the 9 levels of heaven. That is extremely interesting. Thank you for sharing that. So we've been talking about Gnosticism, we've talked about Mormonism. I have an uncle who's Mormon. Um, we're talking about Lady Blind Wolf has covered it all today. And she's
Right.
now she's talking about Norse pantheon, and yeah, there's a lot of similarities. I think most of the the stories from old, however you want to call it, we're all talking about the same thing. But it's like, we've got three people on this panel here that have read the same book and we all took it differently, didn't we? Kind
Yeah,
of.
but not too far off. I think we all have similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if we would all be telling a different story if you asked
Mhm.
us, we would all say it differently, but
Right.
yet we all read the same thing. And because we're all different people,
Mhm.
we feel differently about it. So I feel like that's exactly when you look at any type of religion or spiritual belief, it is coming from a place of a person that's trying to tell the same story, but they're a different person from you and they feel differently about things because of what may have happened to them. So, and then they choose to write it down. That's exactly what religion and spiritual belief is to me. That's why I choose omnism because I don't want to judge another person for their
Mhm.
beliefs.
Right.
But
Hmm.
yeah, I do believe that Enoch is Metatron. Absolutely. I've always felt that early Gnostics stem from the apostles. There were a couple of branches of Gnostic beliefs and they didn't get along, knowing that it would make the early Gnostic Christians. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Gnostics believe that Mary and Jesus, like Jesus did not die. I'm talking about from a Gnostic point of view. Jesus did not die. He was taken down off the cross and he was ushered to a place called Kashmir. And there Mary and him had children, which the Knights of the Templar kind of, or the Cathars or whatever, they kind of held on to that and hid their bloodline, which is known as the Holy Grail, so that their bloodline would be preserved and that they wouldn't be murdered as heretics of of Christianity, because it goes against everything that these elitists wanted to rule the world with. If that's just my opinion there, but yeah, I think it's an agenda, because imagine that, we could even go on and talk about COVID. you know
Right.
Mhm.
and there's all sorts of theories, and it goes back to the bloodline of Jesus. So I mean, yeah.
Hmm.
And if you look at it, Mary would be considered the female counterpart to Jesus. Yeah, we could even get into, the seven hermetic principles. We are not male or female. We are both, and I'm talking about spiritually. We might inhabit a flesh body that has a sex, but in order to be healthy and balanced, we have to be balanced in our divine feminine and our divine
Masculine.
masculine. Absolutely. What about the bitter waters? I mean, abortion was in the Bible, and it says in the Bible that life begins at child's first breath. Oh,
Hmm.
I think that's definitely up for debate too,
Yeah.
because I don't know. I couldn't even answer that one. I know that knowing that we are a consciousness before we are a flesh body tells me that that's anybody's guess. Maybe the consciousness might want to experience what it feels like to be in
The
the
womb.
womb. Exactly. So I
Mhm.
think we have the freedom to make that choice as a consciousness too. I don't think that there's a rule.
Hmm.
I think that we can all speculate and have opinions on that, but maybe one consciousness said, no, I want to experience what it feels like to be in the womb. And who's to say that they didn't? So I don't buy into that at all. I don't think there's any rules. I think we put rules there for our own purpose, you know, to validate how we feel or what we want.
Um,
What do you, yeah.
sorry, hold on. There was something in here. Um, okay, so I spoke with you, Carla, about this before. So the first book of Enoch, it says, where is it? Oh my gosh. There, okay. So, and the woman also of the angels who went astray shall become sirens. Other versions read, shall become peaceful. Also, another version read, shall salute them. So that part there was really confusing to me. So
I
like there's
think,
3 different versions. So what is the right version?
well, I think that just validates what we were talking about, that, you know,
Hmm.
if we don't meditate and ask our higher selves or God or higher power, whatever it is, the person that guides us, to guide us through whatever we read and whatever we take in, then we're the answers are within us, because like that proves that man is fallible when it comes to communicating. So if we're trying to tell a story, um words are extremely important when, like, say, they told it 4,000 years ago and here we are reading about it today. Or, I'm being very vague there.
Yep.
That tells me, that's why I can't take those things that I read like that as absolute truth. The truth
Mhm.
is inside of me. And if like I said, I told you, I believe my oversoul was here long before I incarnated on earth, and it's immortal. So, my best communication and the best truth that I am going to get is going to be in a state of gnosis. Doesn't mean that I can't get something from these books, because, believe me, I do. And it's, there's certain things that I would have never thought of unless I read it. You know what I mean? It might even have sparked a bit of my own, say, memory, the Akashic records. Maybe we tap into that when we read stories from a past that we supposedly may have not been there, but were we?
Hmm.
So sirens would make me believe it was mermaids, but yet maybe if it's something peaceful, then mermaids, what? No, it can't be that then, right?
Yeah. What do you think, Chris?
I'm not too sure.
Hmm.
What about you guys in chat? Why do you really think that these women that the fallen angels had sex with, do you think they became mermaids? I've seen TikToks on it, so it must be true, right?
It's definitely an interesting thought.
It is an interesting thought. Yes.
Hmm.
But I mean, I know that there are certain factions of Christianity that believe the Greys are demons. There's certain, like when I first read the Bible, I was 10. My mind said the sons of gods, the angels, were aliens.
Hmm.
I was 10. And
Yeah,
that's what I pictured, was aliens.
I think like the nasty, mean, scary aliens, I think those are demons, and the nice ones are celestial beings.
Well, what is a demon?
Anything from Lucifer,
Hmm. Yeah, see,
because
I
they
think
can take
Lucifer and
different.
Jesus are the same.
They can take different forms. They can look different. They can pretend to be whatever, and they're very, what's the word I'm looking for?
Narcissistic.
Yeah.
So Lucifer was only mentioned once in the Bible, even though these other texts outside of the Bible mention Lucifer. But Lucifer in the Bible was mentioned one time, and he was the morning star. And how far he had fallen, right?
Mm-hmm.
From his heavenly seat. So Jesus was also the morning star. So I cannot help but think that Jesus's oversoul is also Lucifer.
Well, Jesus wasn't referred to as the morning star. I believe he was referred to as the light bringer.
And he was also the morning star. Yeah. But yes, the light bringer too. Absolutely. Yeah. And Lucifer was the light bringer, or Satan is a being of light. So, I mean, I feel like Satan is anything that goes against God in the Bible. Yeah. And then you just have to decide, well, who is God? Is God, God of the flesh or God of the spirit? God is all encompassing. Flesh dies, it's fleeting. God remains. God is the consciousness. That's just my opinion, but yeah.
Do you know what it says about Enoch in the Emerald Tablet? I know he's mentioned in there. I just don't remember what it said about him.
He's Metatron. But yeah. And I believe that they're all saying that it's all the same person. Which Thoth is also Enki's son. I can't even think of his Sumerian name, but yeah. This comment, I think we all have the DNA of the gods in our DNA. A demon is just another collective. There is good and bad in all collectives. Yes, absolutely. I believe that. This was something
that right. I'm trying to collect my thoughts as I when the fallen had mated with women and created the Nephilim, that was a version of tampering with the DNA that was given to us by God.
Right.
The mixing of God's creation with the fallen.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe that. I believe that, like, where the Sumerian tablets say that they had a hand in creating us, they still had to use a primate that was on the earth at that time to tamper with. And some believe that might have been Neanderthal. Back to this, it made me think about the DNA and, the good and bad in all of us. Like, do you know that CERN fired up during the eclipse?
Yes.
And there was an eclipse. There was a total eclipse at the time of the crucifixion in the Bible, but it was 3 days of darkness. Whereas, we had 3-4 hours of darkness, hour, day, second, whatever, anything can be lost in translation, but it's CERN is like transforming dark matter, right? So an eclipse is known to transform, right? It's going to turn our shadow into light. It's going to transform. So, this is my personal belief that during the crucifixion, that's what happened. Jesus knew how to use the power of an eclipse, because I'm telling you, there is a power in the eclipse. There is an energy that not only were, the ancients knew that it was powerful. Animals know it's powerful. I mean, it's just not something.
It amplifies the electromagnetism of the earth.
There you go. Why is CERN firing up? Why is NASA firing rockets into the shadow of the moon? Because they want to do something with that. So, it's an upgrade in consciousness. It's an upgrade in DNA.
I don't think they're going to use it for anything good. That's just my gut feeling.
Yeah.
There's the scientists, like, I understand they want to find out stuff and learn more, but there's got to be a certain limit where you should not cross. And I think CERN is one of those limits that it shouldn't even be here, because I think it's dealing with messing something up really bad.
I agree with Aunt Sarah, because they don't even really understand what they're doing when they're doing it. the experiment, like they could destroy timeline.
Yeah.
They can even open up a portal of who
Yes.
knows what can
Yes.
come
Yes.
in, and there you go, like
Yes.
Right.
World War III of like freaking demons coming out of nowhere, or who knows what. I don't know.
Or create a black hole and we're all gone.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That's why, when I say humans, we are the beast, but that's because, our shadow is manifested in the flesh. Whereas, I mean, after, you leave the flesh, then, you're either going to trap yourself in a certain energy. You're not going to be able to ascend any higher if you're holding on to um
Negativity.
anger and ego, yeah, the lower vibratory type energy. If you're hanging
Mhm.
on to that, you're not going to be able to grow out of it. So yeah, you're automatically going to want to stay in the flesh so you can at least, live. And what is opposite of live? What happens when you spell live backwards?
Evil.
Yeah, okay. So it's
Mhm.
Yeah.
like they're talking about it in chat. It's two sides, like Metal Sage says, it's two sides of the same coin. It's the light and the dark. And that is,
It's like what, like there's a, I think it was from Albert Einstein, and he said from the absence of God is to be without love, and and the absence of love is evil.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And he was
yeah.
and he phrased it that way, I think, because he was saying to be without God is to be an evil person.
Yeah, because even if you spell that backwards, it still says evil. Yeah. Um I You guys answer this. It says people have their beliefs, but I still don't understand why it's hard for some people to believe in the Nephilim when some people are still born with those giant genes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I believe in the hibernation, and I believe in aliens, and I believe in all of that. And I think that some people are part of a bloodline. I believe that the elitist deliberately keep their bloodline pure, and so they might marry their freaking brother or their sister or their first cousin, you know, because they believe in the power of the blood. So, and it all kind of goes back to the bloodline of Christ. I think that some people believe in that because of this right here. They believe that that is uh their ancestors were powerful. Their ancestors had these gifts. And I don't believe that the gifts are the flesh. I believe that the gifts are of the spirit. But I do believe that these things are true and that these things have happened. I think that some people don't believe for the same reason that some people choose to um, stay closed-minded in say a religious faith that tells them what to do instead of going out and truth seeking for themselves because it's fear.
Mhm.
They are in fear of something, and so that's why they follow the rules. And if they're told not to believe in something, then they won't. But that's just my opinion. Um, is the moon a planet?
Hmm.
I don't know. I think it's hollow. I think it's hollow, and I think it was made. I think somebody made it.
Mhm.
I don't know. It's
I don't think
interesting.
it's hollow. I think it's either full of lead or some kind of metal or aluminum.
Yeah, it's something. It's up for speculation. I haven't been there, but
I think inside of it is like a ball of energy, because that's why it lights up. Because it can't just shine from nothing. There has to be something giving it glow.
Yeah. Yeah. I like Satan and Jesus being bros or even the same makes sense. Everything in this universe contains its opposite for equal balance. Yeah, it's the shadow and the light. We have darkness inside of us, you know. It would only it would only make sense that Jesus had a dark side. He had to have. You're never going to find the light without the dark. So, and that's the part about, Christianity. They tell you that, the dark is evil, but it's not. It's us. Yes, we were born of sin. We were born of that. But it's using that to become a better person. You don't learn the hardest lessons in life without the struggle. So, chariots of fire as described in the Bible could be an interpretation of spacecraft. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought when I read it. Absolutely. So I'm going to read through these comments real quick. And then if you guys have anything else you want to say, but I definitely would like to come back and we'll talk about the second and the third book, because
yep.
I'm telling you, they talk about Lilith. I mean, there's a lot more involved in those two books, and it's pretty fantastic. I like it.
Gabriel and Michael.
I'm going to start reading the second book tonight. So just bear with me, guys.
Absolutely. I'm excited. So also Lady Blind Wolf says, but if I'm not mistaken, it was also said there was an eclipse during the first Passover, which again leads back to this whole thing with the red heifers. But when people have been looking, actually, they have figured out that it wasn't correct, that the sun during the last eclipse was not at the exact alignment. Okay, so all that with the alignment and all that, I do believe that just had to do with them recognizing Western when they should have been looking at true sidereal. It was a double Pisces. So that's where I think the discrepancy is there. I heard about the 9 heifers, and I think that there's something to that, but I don't know. I really don't. I thought
it was 7
or 7. Maybe it was 7, but it definitely had something. People that are like engulfed in this, to use, like the people that are higher up are occultists. They know this stuff. They could probably listen to this podcast and they're probably laughing their ass off thinking, you guys think you know, but you don't know. We know,
I think they do know, and I think they keep it hidden from us.
Yeah, they try to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm reading books from, people that were practicing magic from, the ancients. So, this knowledge has been carried on, whether you read it in an apocryphal text, or you read it in the Bible, or you read it in, Eliphas Levy's stuff that's been translated. If whatever you're reading is meant as knowledge that's supposed to be kept and passed on, it's the elitists have their hands on this, or like what we know, that the Vatican has a whole bunch of stuff that's we can't just go, oh hey, can I hang out in the library here and just read all this stuff?
Can I go in the archive?
Yeah. So they know this stuff, and if they're doing this, then if they're sacrificing things and they're doing stuff, they definitely they have an agenda and they know what they're doing. I don't. I can speculate, but I don't know.
Someone needs to break in the Vatican somehow and record a whole bunch of all the books.
I think they don't let people. I have my own theories on what is in the Library of the Vatican down below in the archives, and I think that they have the Library of Alexandria in there, and I think they have the Library of Atlantis in there also.
Mm-hmm.
That's why there's only like 4 or 5 people ever allowed down in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have some homework for you guys. Lady Blind Wolf has lots of videos if you ever want to check it out, on a pastor named Greg Locke. And this is another, it's a like, you know, you have extremists and everything, okay? And they will give something a bad name. This man that she's talking about, Greg Locke, oh my goodness. He would, if someone like me, he would have me murdered in an instant. I would be unalived, okay, because of the things that I practice. But he's a Christian and he has a lot of followers. Just something to keep in mind. So, yeah, check him
Yeah,
out.
you have to send that. You have to send that in a messenger.
I will. And you guys can tell me what you think, because he's, yeah. I won't, you know, get myself in trouble, but yeah, check him out. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you guys so much for being here, and thank you so much for everyone in chat, and it's just, I love talking about this stuff. So and it always makes me think outside the box, and I think that's where you find the truth. The truth is never in a box conveniently wrapped up for you to find.
Yep.
It's all around you and everywhere that you're not looking. So yeah. And we will come back and talk about the second and third book, and hopefully we see everybody in chat again, and I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their Sunday. And oh yeah, Greg Locke, yeah, he's something. Yep. All right, well, thank you again, and you guys stay put, and I'm going to say goodbye to everybody, and enjoy your Sunday, and thank you so much for being here with us.